Hey everyone, CB here from CJB Studios, and today I am back at it with another movie review for all of you folks today. Before I get started, I do want to apologize if my voice sounds a little nasally. I'm currently going through a bit of a cold right now, just some allergies here and there. So if you guys hear me sneezing or sniffling or coughing, that's just me going through a cold right now. But anyways, back to the subject of the video. What movie is it that I'm going to be reviewing today? Well, in case you didn't see the thumbnail or the title of the video, I'm going to be reviewing Barnyard, the original Party Animals, also known as Barnyard. Yep, you've seen it here, folks. I'm going to be talking about that computer animated film from Nickelodeon that has a bunch of walking and talking barnyard animals, created by none other than Steve Odekirk. I was originally going to do this review sometime earlier in the month. It was originally going to be on August 16th before I did the DVD menu walkthrough on the movie, and then I was going to do it on August 23rd, but for some reason I didn't. And, well, since the month is almost over, I'm thinking, well, why not just do it right now to kind of get it out of the way. So, yeah, Barnyard came out on August 4th, 2006, and critics didn't really like it when it came out. They gave the film a bunch of negative reviews, but audiences, however, really did like it. They liked it very much. In fact, it was really well loved that it spawned an animated TV show that aired on Nickelodeon the following year, on September 9th, 2007, aptly known as Back at the Barnyard. Originally known as Barnyard the Series, in case you haven't seen one of the advertisements for it. So, the movie opens up with a farmer. I don't know if the farmer has a name. He decides to just go into the fields. And after he leaves, a bunch of the barnyard animals, well, at the barnyard, of course, end up walking and talking just like humans do. Kind of like Toy Story, but with animals. And yet, this is 10 years before the sequel Life of Pets came out. Anyways, one of those animals is none other than Ben, voiced by Sam Elliott. Ben is a cow, and he's wondering where Otis is. And for those who don't know, Otis is actually Ben's son. Not only that, but he is voiced by Kevin James. Otis, of course, is deciding to kind of goof around and have some fun. And on this particular day, he's going hill surfing with his friends. Peck the rooster, Freddy the ferret, Pig the pig, and Pip the mouse. Unfortunately, after Pig removes the stick that the apple was taken off of, the surfboard ends up going down the opposite direction of the hill, and they end up going through some trees. The ice cube breaks through a rock and causing them to fly, and they end up getting through some sticky black tar, as well as a chicken farm covered in feathers. They do, of course, make it to the meeting, though, right on time, and during the meeting, Ben actually tells everybody that it's coyote season. Of course, after the meeting is over, Otis decides to leave, but Ben, being Otis's father, tells him to sit down so he can have a talking to with him. What Ben tells Otis is that he needs to learn how to take full responsibility, as well as telling him this fairly known quote as, "A strong man stands up for himself, a stronger man stands up for others." Otis, of course, does understand it, but he refuses to actually take full responsibility and decides to goof around anyway. Later on that day, after doing a bunch of crazy stuff, like swimming in the pond, watching TV outside the farmer house's window, and even, kind of making fun of the mailman, Otis ends up meeting two new cows that were brought in, named Daisy and Bessie. Yeah, I almost got their names backwards. Of course, Otis suggests that he would like to have, Daisy and Bessie come over to the barnyard. And later on that night, once the farmer leaves, the animals end up having a good party, along with Daisy and Bessie coming in. Of course, while everyone else is at the barnyard, Otis decides to talk with his dad, Ben, because, Ben did ask Otis if he was willing to have a shift later that night, and of course he does. Once the shift is over, Otis decides to finally go over to the barnyard and have some fun. Not only that, he also decides to sing, We're Down on the Farm, as well as order a bunch of pizza. Later on that same night, Ben ends up strumming on his guitar by singing a song, I Won't Back Down, until the coyotes arrive at the chicken coop, led by the Redford coyote named Dag. Some people theorize that Dag is kind of a serial killer because, in case you guys haven't seen the film, he's holding like a key ring with chicken feet on it. And his goal, along with the other coyotes, is to kill and eat other chickens, as well as probably other animals that they see in sight. Ben, of course, arrives to stop the coyotes simply by playing on his guitar, but then he really tries to fight them off until, it's basically too late, because after he supposedly defeats them, he ends up dying, which causes Etta, I believe that's her name, voiced by Andie MacDowell, to tell Otis that Ben is dead. Otis, of course, comes over and finds his father dying and mourns the loss of him. But later on the next day, everybody else mourns the loss of him too. Not only that, but Duke, the dog, now decides to do a meeting himself, since Ben is no longer with them. And during the meeting, Miles and Pig both feel like Otis should be the one in charge, since he was apparently willing to take Ben's place. Of course, once Otis arrives to the barnyard, it's filled with chaos, such as cartwheels, soccer balls, horses dancing on the stage, and of course, Otis, now realizing that he does apparently have to take Ben's place, he tells everyone to stop. That is until a furry creature known as Wild Mike comes in and causes Otis to dance like crazy. Unfortunately, once the dancing is over, the farmer arrives and sees that everybody was acting just like humans are, until he gets knocked out by Miles, who kicks him in the head. Later on that day, after they put the farmer against a tree while he regains consciousness, Otis then decides to go out at night and have some fun until he sees a bunch of other boys, one of them named Snotty Boy, voiced by Steve Odekirk himself, to tip over a cow who's sleeping. They decide to get back at him. Otis and the Jersey cows, I forgot to mention their names, Bud, Ig, and, what was, dang it, I forgot the other cow's name. But anyways, they decide to get back at Snotty Boy by tipping him in his house, and then they eventually escape through the use of Nora B's car, who she actually thinks that, the cows are outside. I mean, she does see it, but her husband doesn't believe her. Of course, in the process of driving the car, the cows end up being chased by the police. They crash the car into a tree, and then the cops find out that they were just cows, driving it. Well, they didn't notice they were driving it, but still. They do bring the car back to where it belongs, and then after the Jersey cows mention Ben, Otis ends up getting traumatic, sort of sad flashbacks since Ben is gone. Later on that night, Daisy arrives and tells Otis her backstory about how she lost her family, after a bad flood came in, and now she was brought up to the barnyard. Not to mention that also during that night, Dag and some of his coyote, gang members are chasing after a rabbit, and Otis tries to go after them. He eventually does so, but Dag gives him a deal. I guess a deal. Basically, he tells him that Otis should keep everybody safe, and then he tells him that they'll be back to see him tomorrow night. The following night, basically. After the coyotes leave, Otis goes over to Ben's grave and tells him that he's really sorry for not actually following up to his father's, rules, being responsible. So this is when Otis now begins to learn what Ben was trying to tell him. The next morning, it turns out Otis is actually choosing to leave the barnyard because he doesn't feel like he should belong there anymore. And he can't protect everybody because of the coyotes. To make matters worse, Peck arrives and tells Otis that the coyotes actually came in and took all the hens from the hen coop, including Maddie. This, of course, makes Otis really upset and now makes him finally take responsibility by finding where the coyotes are, which turns out to be a junkyard. As Dag tries to prepare to eat Maddie, Otis arrives to stop them, but all the coyotes pile on top of him, making him very weak. But, remembering what Ben told him, Otis decides to be very strong. And not only that, a bunch of his friends show up to help him out, including Wild Mike. After defeating all the coyotes, including Dag, by swinging him out with an old bicycle seat, like a golf club, kind of like what he did earlier in the movie, Otis and the Barnyard gang decide to head back to the barnyard after finding out that Daisy is actually having a baby. They make it back through the use of motorcycles, and once they do make it there, they do find out that Daisy has a baby boy, and she decides to name it Ben after Otis's father. The movie then ends with Otis telling everybody that as long as he's still kicking, no animal will be harmed inside the fence, just like Ben told him. After that, there's a brief scene before the end credits where Nora Beatty ends up taking care of herself with her hair until Wild Mike is actually in it. And then the credits roll. So that was my review on Barnyard. It's kind of hard to talk about this movie even though I've seen it a lot of times before. But if I'm being honest, I thought it was a really, really good movie. Like, I didn't see this film when it came out in theaters. I mean, I did see it when we got it on DVD at Target. I think it was back in 2006 or 2007. I don't know when the film came out on DVD. But I do remember getting the DVD at Target. That being said, I do remember seeing a trailer for the film when my family and I went to go see Cars. So that was the first thing I knew about Barnyard. But I didn't know about the whole movie itself until I got the DVD, like I said. So yeah, I really thought Barnyard was a good movie. I mean, goodness. I've seen this movie lots of times before, and it's kind of hard to talk about, like trying to go through all the plot points and everything. But what did I like about it? Well, the animation, it may not look exactly the best, even for Nickelodeon, but it still looks pretty impressive for the time. Not bad for the 2000s. That being said, I think I stated this earlier, Barnyard was originally done as a demo. It was originally known as a demo that was titled The Barnyard, and it was actually animated by DNA Productions, the same studio that worked on the Adventures of Jimmy Neutron. And, well, given that both properties are owned by Nickelodeon, it kind of makes sense. What's another thing I could say about Barnyard? Oh, the voice cast. I mean, I've already stated some of the cast members in the review, but we've got Kevin James as Otis, we've got Sam Elliott as Ben, Annie McDowell as Etta, Rob Paulson as Peck. I mean, come on. This movie has a huge ensemble cast here. I mean, there's John DiMaggio. There's Maurice LaMarche. I mean, come on. They got a lot of great people in this movie. Like, not only that, but even though the film itself is pretty much a comedy, it does have some, kind of serious moments. Like, losing a family member. I mean, a lot of movies have done that before. I mean, The Lion King did it. And to be fair, a lot of people unfairly compared it to The Lion King, which I can kind of understand, because the coyotes are kind of like the hyenas in a sense. And, Otis is pretty much like, well, Otis and Ben are kind of like Simba and Mufasa in a way, even though, there are a few differences here and there, but still, I get some of the similarities to it. But not only that, I mean, speaking of the coyotes, there's Dag himself. I never knew that this would be in a kid's film. Like, I already stated this in the review. But Dag is like a serial killer. Like, he has a key ring with chicken feet on it. You wouldn't think that Nickelodeon would go that far to, do something like that. They've done dark stuff before. They did crazy things in Ren and Stimpy. They've done it in SpongeBob. And I think even The Loud House had some pretty scary moments too. But this, oh man. I never thought that a kid's film would have a serial killer, but here we are. Man, like, what else is there to talk about? I could go on and on about this movie, but I feel like a lot of other people have already done it, so I don't know. It's just like, there's a lot going on. There's the voice cast, there's the animation, there's the music, composed by John Debney. Oh, man. I mean, I will admit here, I'm going to be fully honest here, this may have not been my favorite film from Nickelodeon, but it was one of my favorites growing up. Because it did introduce me to a lot of really famous actors, like Sam Elliott or Kevin James. Those kind of guys. And the fact that Barnyard was pitched that long, like way back in 1999, and it finally comes out 7 years later, that really goes to show that Steve Oedekerk had a passion for it. I mean, come on. This is the same guy that did, Thumb Wars or Thumbtanic, those kind of things. And the fact that he worked on this movie really goes to show that he had he had a passion while making it, along with getting so many popular actors in it. Not to mention the message that Ben tells Otis. A strong man stands up for himself, a stronger man stands up for others. That has got to be one of the, no pun intended, strongest and wisest quotes in any film, especially if it's from Sam Elliott. Oh, since I mentioned the DVD, here's a little treat for you guys. This is the 2006 widescreen DVD release of Barnyard that I got at Target. Well, we got at Target. Here's the spine. Here's the back of it. And here's the disc here, as you can see. It's kind of silver, so it's kind of hard to see the Barnyard logo in there, but it's there. So yeah, and as I stated earlier in the review, there was the TV show known as Back at the Barnyard that came out the year after the movie. And unlike the movie, well, the TV show was geared more towards comedy all throughout. It kind of retconned like everything that happened in the movie, and some of the characters ended up getting recast or replaced. For example, Otis was no longer voiced by Kevin James. Instead, he was voiced by Chris Hardwick from The Nerdist. I believe it was Nerdist anyways. I've never checked out the podcast. And let's see. Daisy. Daisy was replaced by a new female character named Abby. I actually did see a couple episodes of the show back when it was airing on Nicktoons Network at the time. Will I do a full review on the series? Probably not. I'm probably going to have to watch the entire show first in order to do that. So yeah. So there you go. That was my review of Barnyard. I know this video's not perfect like any of these reviews are, but, I have been wanting to talk about it for this month, and I figured why not do it now. So yeah. I hope you guys liked this review. Please leave a like on it if you want to. Comment, subscribe, ring the bell, and I will see you all next time.